There is a conversation that almost never happens. Not at school, not at most dinner tables. Not with your employer, not even with your bank, unless something has already gone wrong. It is the conversation about where you actually stand, financially, right now. Not where you hope to be, not where you think you should be by this stage of your life. Not the version of your finances you describe to other people. The real version, the one defined by numbers, by patterns, by what is actually happening, not what is intended. Most people never have that conversation, and the cost of avoiding it is not immediate. That is what makes it dangerous. It builds slowly, quietly, over years, until one day, the reality becomes unavoidable. This is that conversation. It will not be the most comfortable one you have ever had, but it might be one of the most useful, because by the end of this, you will have three things most people never get. Clarity on where you stand, an understanding of how you got there, and a framework for what to do next. Let's begin. Let's start with the numbers. Because the reality, when you actually look at it, is very different from what most people assume. Take savings. The median person approaching retirement does not have millions set aside. They do not even have close to that. They have a number that, on the surface, might sound reasonable until you break it down into what it actually means in real life. When you convert that total into monthly income, it becomes clear very quickly that it is not enough to sustain the lifestyle most people expect. And that gap between expectation and reality is where a lot of financial stress begins. Now add to that the role of debt. Most households are carrying some form of it. Mortgages, car payments, student loans, credit cards. And while some of that debt can be manageable, a portion of it is extremely expensive. Credit card debt in particular is one of the most aggressive financial forces working against people. High interest rates mean that a relatively small balance can take years to eliminate. And over that time, the total cost can grow to more than double the original amount. What started as a short-term solution becomes a long-term burden. And here is the part that surprises most people. The issue is almost never income alone. There are people earning modest salaries who build stable financial lives. And there are people earning high incomes who feel constantly behind. Because income by itself does not determine the outcome. What matters is what happens after the money arrives. There have been cases where people receive sudden financial windfalls, large amounts of money, all at once. And within a few years, many of them return to the same financial position they were in before. Not because the money was not enough, but because the underlying patterns did not change. That is the part no one explains clearly. Money does not fix financial problems on its own. Behavior does. And without understanding the rules that govern money, people tend to repeat the same patterns, regardless of how much they earn. So what are those patterns? They can be traced back to three specific gaps. The first is the knowledge gap. Most people were never taught how money actually works. Not in a practical sense. They were not taught how interest compounds over time. Not just in investments, but in debt. They were not taught how to evaluate financial decisions, how to understand basic financial tools, or how to think long-term about money. So they enter adulthood with responsibilities, with access to credit, with income, but without a clear framework for managing any of it. And the result is predictable. Mistakes that could have been avoided. Decisions made without full understanding. Years spent learning through trial and error, often at a cost. The second gap is the income to wealth gap. This is one of the most misunderstood ideas. In personal finance, income is what you earn, wealth is what you keep. And more importantly, what you grow. A higher income does not automatically lead to more wealth. Because as income increases, spending often increases alongside it. A slightly better apartment, a slightly newer car, more convenience, more comfort. Individually, these decisions feel small, reasonable even, but together they absorb the entire increase in income. So the person earning more does not necessarily move forward financially. They simply maintain a more expensive version of the same position. Wealth is created in the space between income and spending. That gap is where progress lives. And if that gap does not exist, neither does long-term financial security. The third gap is the time gap. This is the one people feel the least, but it costs the most. Because it operates quietly, in the background, over long periods. Compound growth is not dramatic in the beginning. It does not feel powerful in the early years. But over time, it accelerates, and the earlier it starts, the more powerful it becomes. A small, consistent investment made early has more impact than a larger investment made later. Not because of the amount, but because of the time it has to grow. When you delay starting, you are not just delaying contributions. You are removing years of potential growth that cannot be replaced. And the longer the delay, the larger the cost becomes. This is why time is not neutral in finance. Every year matters. Every decision to wait has a consequence, even if it is not immediately visible. Now, before moving forward, it is important to address something. Why is it that so many people do not know this? It is not because the information is hidden, and it is not because people are incapable of understanding it. It is because the system most people operate within does not prioritize financial education. There are entire industries built around spending, around borrowing, around making things feel accessible, in the moment, without fully understanding the long-term impact. There are very few built around teaching restraint, planning, and long-term thinking. And the education system, in most cases, was not designed to prepare people for financial independence. In a practical sense, it was designed to prepare people to participate in the workforce. So people enter adult life ready to earn, but not fully prepared to manage what they earn. That is not a personal failure. It is a gap in information. And the important part is this. Information can be learned. At any point, you can understand how money works. You can change how you interact with it. You can build systems that support better decisions. But it starts with seeing clearly. So let's make one of the most important ideas. In this entire conversation as simple as possible, income is a flow. It comes in, and unless something changes, it goes out. Expenses, obligations, lifestyle. The flow continues, but nothing accumulates. Wealth is different. Wealth is what remains. What is built. What continues to exist and grow, even when you are not actively earning. And the bridge between the two is a decision. The decision to take a portion of your income and convert it into something that builds over time. Most people approach this backwards. They spend first and then attempt to save what is left. But because spending adjusts to match income, there is often nothing left to save. The alternative is simple, but powerful. You reverse the order. You save first. You decide in advance that a portion of what you earn will not be spent. It will be kept, invested, built upon, and then you adjust your spending around what remains. That single shift changes everything, because it creates consistency. And consistency is what allows growth to happen. Now knowing all of this is useful, but it only matters if it leads to action. So let's bring this down to 3 starting points. The first is clarity. You need to know your numbers, not roughly, not approximately, clearly. What is coming in each month? What is going out? What is owed? And at what cost? Because without that clarity, every decision is based on assumption, and assumptions are rarely accurate. The second is automation. Choose one action that moves you forward financially. Saving, investing, paying down debt, and make it automatic. Remove the need to decide each time, because consistency does not come from motivation. It comes from structure. Even a small amount, done consistently, builds momentum. And momentum is what turns small actions into meaningful results over time. The third is prioritization. Not all financial actions are equal. High-interest debt, for example, works against you aggressively. Reducing it is often one of the most impactful steps you can take. So focus your effort where it matters most, not everywhere at once. One priority, handled consistently, creates progress, and progress builds confidence. Now, here is the most important part of all of this. The situation most people find themselves in is not unusual. It is not unique. It is the predictable result of how the system operates and how little guidance most people receive. But it is not permanent. It can be changed. Not instantly, not without effort, but steadily. And it begins with a decision. Not a perfect plan, not a dramatic shift. A decision to stop avoiding the reality, to understand it, and to start shaping it. Because once you see where you stand, you are no longer guessing. You are no longer drifting. You are choosing. And that is where everything begins. So take a moment and ask yourself one question. Not what you want your financial life to look like someday, but what it looks like right now. Clearly, honestly, because the moment you can answer that, you are no longer in the dark. And once you're no longer in the dark, you can move forward, step by step, decision by decision. That is how change happens, and that is how people move from where they are to where they actually want to be. We are just getting started.